All right, we are here back on Power Chat with Rich Harshaw with Level 10 Contractor, and now putting on their premier event in Philadelphia, Operation Lead Surge, here shortly in September. Rich, thanks for taking the time, brother. Appreciate you getting on. I know how busy you are.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here because there's a lot of, I don't want to say turbulence in the summer months, but the summer always causes some uncertainty, especially when it comes to closing and leads. You're up against not only competition, but you're also up against the summer vacations, the pocketbook, the rent, money gets spread thin and time is even more thin in the summer. So you got to be extra efficient with absolutely everything that you do. And when it comes to that, you are one of the first people that pop into mind with the services that you offer from the natural identity of companies and using the company's genuine ability and genuine personnel to attract more customers, right? So I just want to dive right into it because I see a lot of stuff from my vantage point, talking to CEOs and partners across the country. But I'm curious to hear from you. What are the heartburns and the nervousness that maybe you're seeing across the hundreds of your clients that you're working with and in communications with on a daily basis? And, more importantly, I guess, what are you doing to bulletproof them for those situations?
Yeah, I mean, look, lead gen, it's always been hard. It's never been easy. And honestly, I think it's getting harder now. And, some of that has to do with the economy. I think there's some uncertainty there. It's hard to say. Look, we got a full spectrum of clients. Some are up, some are down a little, some are kind of hanging tight here in the summer months. I would say on average, people are doing a little bit better than earlier in the year. So that's good. But, my observation, I've been in the industry now for 20 years and I've been doing marketing for 30 years. And I just think that competition is better now. There's more companies that are better at competing than there used to be. I mean, I don't know how long you've been around this industry, Greg, but it feels like 20 years ago when I got in, it was a bunch of mom and pops and then a few serious players. And now there's still some mom and pops, but man, there's a lot of serious players. And that means that they're going to be spending money. They've got bigger budgets. And so now instead of your ad being one of 3 or 5 or 8, it's one of 100.
Yeah, and it's difficult to gauge, the difference of quality of work, right? We're seeing it both from that side, but we're also seeing it. You rewind back those 20 years ago, how many different window providers were there? How many different window manufacturers? How many different options were out there from the actual solutions base? So now you're talking about adding all that combined with more competitors, sophistication, and that I think that idea of the scrupulous contractor or the person that's going to kind of take your money and run is slowly kind of drifting into the back of people's mind because of social media, because of the ability for the customer to communicate so quickly and also have the research at the fingertips, right? We see scam alerts all the time.
Yeah. It's funny though, because people have more ability to research now, obviously. Everything's at your fingertips. Yet at the end of the day, whatever it is you're selling, roofs, windows, siding, kitchens, bathrooms, whatever it is, the truth is the customer, the prospect, they've never bought this before. Like 80-90% of the time, they've literally never put a new roof on their house before. They've literally never replaced their windows. So they don't even know the right questions to ask. They don't know anything about it. And here's a good example I like to give. This is a little bit more fun in a big conference room speaking from a stage, but the question is like this: by show of hands, imagine that we've got 300 people in the room. By show of hands, how many of you have bought 10 pianos in your life before? And of course, nobody raises their hand. Like in all the years I've said that, there's like one weirdo that bought 10 pianos. Yeah. Okay, who's bought 5? And it's almost 0. Okay, who's bought 2 pianos? It's usually one weirdo that's bought 1 piano. Who's bought 1 piano? And so there's usually like 10% of the room has bought a piano. Not like a keyboard from Best Buy, but like an actual piano. And then I give this example. So if you walked into the piano store because your son or daughter, is getting good at the keyboard, you want to upgrade to a piano, You walk in there, there's a $3,000 piano, and there's a $9,000 piano, and there's an $18,000 piano, but they all look the same. How do you know which one to buy?
Yeah.
Which is the exact same conundrum that your customers are in when you're sitting there showing them windows. They don't know how much this stuff costs. They don't know what's good and bad.
And the difference there is that makes it even more, I guess harder for the customer is, I'm sure the piano is a smaller niche where the windows, doors, roof, siding, you type that in your computer, oh my gosh, you're going to get a lot of information real quick. So not only it's going to be even more challenging, Rich, because the customer now thinks they're educated, right? Because of the research. And so to what you're saying, we're very much aligned here, because I use the example of, look, if you go buy a car today and keep that car for 5 years, the reason you bought that car, 5 years ago, and the reason that you're buying a new car today are going to be totally different. The options, technology, how it works is your car has a CD player in it and this one doesn't. So you can't go in and shop with the same mindset. And so even if somebody did buy a Windows, let's say 10 years ago, the product is totally different today. And there's a lot more different options in the market that you have to navigate.
Well, and here's my point is that even with the research available, people still don't know. Okay, so here's another example for you. Pop quiz, Greg. Which brand of mattress is the premium brand of mattress? Sealy, Serta, or Simmons?
I've heard of them all, but I couldn't tell you which one's the premium.
The answer is none of them are. They're all the same because they all have different quality lines, okay? And you made my point exactly. I didn't feed you that line, which is I've heard of them, but I don't really know. In this industry, people have heard of maybe Renewal by Andersen, maybe Andersen Windows, maybe Pella. Those are things that people have heard of. You get outside of those 2 or 3 brands, maybe Marvin. They haven't even heard of brands, and you've got a guy who's selling, Provia windows, and he's like, oh, man, we're the sole dealer for Provia in this area. And everybody's like, we don't even know what a Provia is. We never even heard of it. We have no context at all for if that's good or bad or right or wrong. Oh, we have Owens Corning shingles for roof versus GAF. Nobody knows. And so here's what I've seen historically and currently. It's never changed. Companies tend to default to advertising based on promotion and price, which is there's a time and a place for that, Greg. Okay. I'm not saying don't ever have a promotion and a price in your ad, but if that's what you're doing all the time, here's what you're doing. You're training the marketplace to buy from you for the reason that you're cheaper than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Then what happens? You show up, you're not cheaper than everyone else, and there's a disconnect.
Yeah, that trust is broken, right? So to kind of summarize, what you're seeing in the market that you're trying to stay ahead of, and maybe what your clients are questions they're asking you. What's the summary there?
Okay, so the summary is there's confusion in the marketplace. Confusion is probably the wrong word. There's lack of information and understanding. All of the AI and Googling notwithstanding, there's a lack of understanding what to look for. So people just default to who have I heard? That's branding. That's good. Mm-hmm. What is the best deal? Maybe I'm getting screwed, but at least I'm getting a good deal while I'm getting screwed. So the solution to that, what I've been preaching for 30 years now, is something that I call identity. Some people might call it a USP or differentiation strategy. But what I'm trying to help my clients do is create a foundation for all of their marketing that's based on the following. Identity. Identity is communicating with power, precision, and passion who you are, how you're different, why you're better, and what people can expect when they do business with you. And the key to this is to find the points that you want to compete on and then find stories, examples, and comparisons so that it's very easy for people to understand. Okay. Can I give you an example?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay. So I've been working with a kitchen and bathroom remodeling client in Kansas City for right around 10 years now. So I first sat down with them and said, okay, why would somebody want to buy a kitchen remodel from you instead of, the other 500 guys that do that in Kansas City? Oh, well, we're better than them. Obviously, that's what you would say. What do you mean you're better? Well, we have higher quality. Well, what do you mean that you have higher quality? And then we broke that down into the caliber of the actual craftsman that's working on the job, which I'm not going to talk about right at this minute. but then also the quality of the products that they're using as they install the kitchen. Okay, so here's a way that you could say that, and I'll use the medium of radio. Not that everybody's on radio, but just because we're talking right now, so it'll simulate that. So you could come on the radio and you could say something like, "Hey, if you're looking for a kitchen remodel, you should use Jericho Home Improvements because we have the highest quality materials in our kitchen remodels." And people would hear that and they would go, I would hope that you would. What are you going to say? That you suck and you got crappy materials? Nobody's going to say that. It's a platitude. It's something that is completely unbelievable because it's so mundane and overused. So here's what you do instead. You say, okay, tell me something specific that you do that people can understand. And I'm just going to read over here on my other screen. This is an actual radio script. So here's what I want you to be evaluating as you listen to this radio script. Does it have power, precision, and passion? And does it help you understand how this company is different and what you can expect if you do business with them? Okay, that's the premise. Here's the ad. One of the most common questions we get about kitchen and bathroom remodeling is how much does it cost? But the question you should be asking is how much does it weigh? How much does it weigh? Actually, you can tell a lot about the quality of a kitchen or bathroom by how much the faucet weighs. At Jericho, we only use quality Moen faucets. They weigh about 10 pounds each. They're solid metal, they look fantastic, and they'll last forever. Other remodelers save money by using off-brand plastic faucets that only weigh about 1.5 pounds. 10 pounds versus 1.5 pounds. If you want a remodeling job that weighs right, call Jericho. Okay, so look what I've just accomplished here. Somebody could know nothing about Jericho. They could have never heard anything before. Here's what they're going to know after listening to that ad. That's a higher quality. They don't know how much faucets weigh, but they can mentally validate a Moen faucet metal probably weighs a lot. 1.5 pounds probably sucks. Now, question, Greg. What do you think Jericho's prices are relative to the marketplace?
Probably 10x.
They're probably a little bit higher, let's just say. They're probably on the higher end of the spectrum. Yeah. We just communicated that without ever saying, hey, we're expensive.
Right.
So we're catering to the audience that we want to talk to, and we're giving them a story that they can understand. Everybody knows what a faucet is. And we're saying it in a way that makes people go, oh, okay, I know what that means. I understand. And then all of this is happening in the background. Well, if they do that with the faucets, I wonder what else they're doing with other things, probably similar.
And on top of that, you're shark proofing, right? You're giving them a question to ask that is unique if they have somebody else out, or they could do the research themselves. They get offered a different faucet. How much does that weigh? And these are indicators. Indicators are telling.
Let me circle back to my original premise, which was the piano scenario, which is also the kitchen scenario. Like, I don't know what to look for in a kitchen. Well, guess what? I just educated somebody that the faucet weighing a certain amount is an indicator of quality.
Yeah.
Okay. If I would have asked people before they heard this commercial, what are the indicators of quality when it comes to a kitchen remodel? They would have said, I don't know. They use granite. Yeah, everybody uses granite. People don't know what they don't know. It's what I actually got this from Chip Heath from a book called Made to Stick. There's a concept called the curse of knowledge. It's very difficult to understand what it's like to not know what you know. So what we do as marketers, we tend to go out there and say things that we assume people understand the gravity of it, when in fact they don't.
Yeah, I got that orange book on my bookcase right here behind on the other side of my office. It's a fantastic read. Now, for the sake of time, I want to keep this moving here a little bit because you're talking about a lot of things that, I'm excited to hear about at your event, Operation Lead Surge in September out in Philly. And one of the big things, like as I'm going through it and knowing you and knowing your team and your experience is identity, right? This is one of the big things. And you're talking about it here, where even with that radio commercial, you're identifying your company as a better quality, attention to detail, looking for them to stand out in the crowd, and really connecting with the audience, right? Creating these triggers, almost subliminally, really. You're a psychological genius when it comes to wordsmithing and how you position things. So I'm super excited for your first event with Level 10. You've been doing events for years. I know that. But what really prompted you to say, okay, we're going to take this gonna take all of our clients and all of our prospects and everybody that's in this industry. We're gonna open it up to everybody. Why would you just open up your playbook to everybody out there? And what prompted that to have an event? Because your information that you have and that you're giving, that you're covering in here, is a live workshop, just as if I was your paying client, right? At the end of the day. So what prompted that, brother?
Yeah, I just went through this very basic example with you with Jericho with the 10-pound faucet. And look, you're a smart guy, and you're also around this industry all the time, so you probably have a little bit better understanding than most people of what goes into a kitchen remodel. When I train on stage, and I've trained on every stage in this industry, from Top 500, Fast Remodeler, Pella, Marvin, James Hart, anything you can think of, I've trained at them. I'll go through an identity keynote. Let's say it's 45 minutes or an hour. And I'll go through multiple examples. I'll show them on the screen. I'll give TV commercial examples. I'll give website examples. And universally, what happens is I can, not literally, but whatever is not literal, figuratively, I can see light bulbs going off over people's heads. And here's the cool thing about it. This concept is so easy to understand. Nobody goes, well, tell me about that identity again. I don't really get it. Can you explain it again? Everybody goes, oh, that totally makes sense. And then they look at their own marketing and they go, we're definitely not doing that right now. So maybe if I just did this. So what I want to do is create an event where I can put people in a room and say, here, let me show you not just what the concept is. That's what happens in a keynote. Hey, here's the concept. Everybody's like, hey, that's great. But here's what I want to do. Here's how you actually create your identity. And here's how you can actually integrate it into all of your marketing. Because the first thing we're going to do is talk about identity. Then we're going to talk about 7 lead generators. We're going to talk about SEO and TV and OTT and pay-per-click and referrals and all the normal things that you would talk about, face-to-face marketing. But this is my belief, and it's the premise of everything I do. My entire company is founded on this premise. If you don't have identity integrated in your marketing, you're automatically running at 50% capacity. 50%. Because let's use our example again. If you go on the radio or TV or social media or wherever you want to put it, but radio in our example, and you say, hey, at Jericho, we have the highest quality remodeling. People love our remodeling. Listen to what Ann from Overland Park said. Oh, we had Jericho come out and they did the great job. It was the highest quality remodeling. And people just hear that stuff and it's just like water off a duck's back. It makes no impression. So I want to show people not just what identity is. I want to roll up the sleeves and say, look, there's 5 pillars of identity: products, workmanship, bedside manner, core values, and your culture / reputation. And I want to show you how to identify identity points. There's about 10 or 12 you can choose from out of each of those 5 categories. So it's about 60 total points. I want to identify the top 3 or 4 for your company, things that you already do well, things that are already the reasons your customers love you. And I want to show you how to, number 1, identify them. But most importantly, number 2, how to find those stories, those examples, those comparisons, so that you can figure out how to say 10 pounds instead of 1.5 pounds equals quality, instead of just saying quality.
Right. So let me ask you this. Like, I love the concept of the show. We are at Power 100. We are excited and thrilled to kind of be covering that event and telling that story, because it needs to be told. Too many events give you a taste of it, but they don't show you everything about it, right? And then you're solving that from an event side, which is really cool. But let me just point blank ask you, like, if I'm an attendee and I'm a CEO and owner, an executive of a home improvement company, and I go to this event, what am I actually going to take away from the event? Like, what is the actual takeaway? Because my understanding, me to you right now, is they're going to get a lot. They're going to get an actual, it's almost like a workshop, right? Where they're actually working on their business the entire time that they're there. So what should they expect to get out of the whole event and actually physically be able to take away?
Yeah, you're going to walk out of there with a workbook that's going to show you, first of all, from an identity standpoint, how to identify your identity points and then how to flesh them out. Okay. So one of the things that I'm doing as a part of this conference is I've got 3 different ticket levels, what we call general, major, and the other one that I can't remember all of a sudden is the lowest one. On the top 2 levels, there's included with this a 12-month follow-up via Zoom with me. And this is where you'll actually be bringing your things that you're working on and reviewing them. Granted, it's in a group setting, but you'll bring me your commercial that says, "Oh, hey, I tried to emulate this for my identity point, which is whatever it is," and we'll go through it. And I'm going to help you actually at the event, but then also after the event, really put it into real world play. Then we're going to move to the 7 lead generators. Look, this is stuff that everybody's already doing. I'm not pretending like I'm inventing 7 new lead generators, but here's what I'm saying. Okay, great. Social media. What are you doing on social media right now? I know what people are doing on social media right now. They're putting a freaking picture of a bathtub and they're saying, here's what it used to look like and here's what it looks like now, and call us and we'll give you $500 off. And then as soon as somebody looks at that ad, all of the retargeting kicks in. So they start to now see 800 other bathroom remodeling companies with their before and after picture. How are you going to stand out in a crowd on that? And the answer is you're not going to stand out in a crowd on that. So what I want to do is show you how to create a more interesting and engaging ad in the first place. And then knowing that retargeting is happening, knowing how to create identity-based follow-up ads that show, hey, yeah, there's 100 different companies out there. Here's what we do. Here's how we're different. Here's our love it or light it promise. Here's our find us or find us guarantee. Here's our, whatever your identity points are. So I'm going to show you how to integrate the identity into your social media, into your, did you know that you can integrate your identity into your SEO and it actually works better? People are like, hey, Rich, you guys at level 10 do SEO. Everybody does SEO. There's a million companies and they all suck. You're right. And they all suck because the thing that Google and AI cares about the most is actually engaging, interesting content. And the most interesting, engaging content is based on identity, educating people what they need to know to make the best decision. So our SEO that we do, and that I'm going to show you how to do in this conference, is actually identity-based, so that Google and AI, ChatGPT, whoever you're searching with, picks up on that and goes, oh, here's the information you need. Oh, you mean SEO works better with identity? Yes. You mean pay-per-click works better when they come to a landing page that actually has the identity in it? Yes. You mean that when you knock on somebody's door and you tell them how you're different, why you're better, and you say it with power, precision, and passion, it works better? Yes. You're saying you get more referrals and more repeat business when people clearly understand who you are, how you're different, why you're better? Yes. TV works better? Yes. Radio? Yes. All of it works better. So I'm going to give you the foundational premise of identity. Then I'm going to show you how to integrate it into the 7 lead gens.
You got me ready to go. Like, can the event be tomorrow, please? Come on.
Yes.
Pull it forward. Pull it forward.
And then the third thing we're going to do is called lead conversion engine. Okay, now you got the leads, but guess what? So everybody speed to lead. Everybody knows speed to lead. Yeah, you need to get better at speed to lead. Here's the 5 tools you need to use to get speed to lead better. Awesome. Here's what everybody leaves out of speed to lead. What if you sent them a text for speed to lead? Yeah, great. Everybody knows that. Use Hatch. Great. Use Structurally. Use your CRM. What text are you sending? What if it was a text that said, hey, when it comes to kitchen remodeling, everybody wants to know how much does it cost? What you should be asking is how much does it weigh? And then you show a video. Here's a 10-pound faucet. Here's a 1.5 pound faucet. Hey, when we show up at your house tomorrow night, we're going to show you how we do things different and better. And you'll find out how much it should weigh, not just how much it should cost. And then they go, oh, these guys are actually different and better than the other 5 clowns I've got coming over to pitch me.
Yeah. All of a sudden, the competition plays to your favor, right? Because they're looking the same and you're looking different. Whereas if you didn't have that competition, you wouldn't look different. You would just look like you. So that's really powerful. The entire stretch all the way through. I used to call that, when I was running my home improvement company, I used to call that holistic marketing. From start to finish, the customer, anyone that looks at our business from any perspective, needs to know who we are, what we do, and why we do it. And you're putting just such an in-depth, walkthrough of this identity-based foundation that, based on SEO, based on performance optimization, all the way through, all the way down to targeting your leads, and then obviously capturing the leads. Ultimately, what we're doing is helping you convert, right? That's what you're doing. You'll have a higher conversion rate, a higher close rate, a higher margin, because you're selling on value, not just,
all of that is correct. And also you're going to get more leads because you're telling your story better. So let's say that you go to an audience of 100 people, just as a round number, hypothetically. and you put out what I would consider to be either a price or offer based ad, or just a typical, hey, we're higher quality than everybody kind of an ad. Here's what happens. Out of those 100 people, there's going to be about 2 or 3 that are on the precipice of pulling the trigger as it relates to this thing that you're selling. Not necessarily with you, but just in general. They're like, I'm ready to remodel my kitchen. There's probably like 2%. And your offer can kick those 2% over, make them call you. Now you've got a chance to send your salesperson out. They can go sell. Awesome. That's what most people are doing. They're focusing on that 2%. By the way, it's not necessarily 2%. It's 1%, it's 2%, it's 3%. It depends on the situation. What I'm suggesting is you can actually open up to a larger percentage of potential buyers, because if there's 2% that are ready to buy right now, there's another 3, 4, 5, 6, 7% that are actively thinking about it. They're not ready to pull the trigger yet, but they're actively thinking. So now I'm actively indoctrinating them, and they're paying attention because this topic is on their radar. Mm-hmm. And so now I can actually push people forward in their decision-making process, because now I'm alleviating the number one concern that they have with this project, which is what? It's not price. That's the number 2 concern. The number 1 price is, I got to go freaking choose one of these guys to do this, and it's intimidating, and I don't even know how to tell which guys are better. I'm trust and price conditioning on the front end, so I'm opening up this bigger swath of customers. So I'm going to get more leads, and then you're right. I'm going to convert more at higher prices. Everything.
It's holistic, and what you're doing is, and you can't work with companies that are not legitimate, right? That don't follow through. You have to be, guys, let's get a big reminder, because my next question here is, who should attend, the event? Who is it catered for? Is it catered for $100 million businesses, $1 million businesses, somewhere in between, anybody, everybody? But like, at the end of the day, I know that you can't put lipstick on a pig in this industry, right? We talked about that earlier. So other than the right person with the right mindset, that moral, ethical compass that's going to do right by their customer and really believe in that, also their team and the people and the community that they believe in. But like, who is the right contractor? What is the right industry, meaning service areas? Who is this pinpointed towards, Rich?
Yeah, you're 100% accurate. If you kind of run a semi crappy company, just don't. I mean, I guess you could come to learn how to do it different and better, but this stuff is not going to work for you. All you will do is expose yourself very quickly, and people will know quicker that you suck. Beyond that, here's the funny thing, Greg. It's not really a function of how big your company is, because there are very large companies that, in my opinion, look, they're large companies. They're making money. I'm not saying that they're not successful. I'm saying that I don't really like their business model. They're more of the wham, bam, thank you, ma'am kinds of companies. Right. And they can do it, and they can pull it off because they're very large, and they have very large budgets, and they're very good at selling. Fair enough. Those guys are not going to do well at this conference. They shouldn't come. If your job is to just grab a guy by the arm, put it up on his back, and make him buy, this is not a good fit. Just not a good fit. The Tin Man thing. It's not a good fit. On the other hand, you could be a very small business. You could be a mom and pop who's doing $2 million for the last, 85 years or whatever. And you do things really, really well, but you've never figured out how to communicate that to a larger audience. You're just sort of getting by on a reputation within your sphere. It's going to work great for you. But here's the real sweet spot for this. It's the $5 to $20 million companies that already have some momentum, that have some money to spend on marketing, that say, we're trying to get to the next level. And I told you about Jericho. When Jericho called me 10 years ago, the guy was already doing $12 million. And he says, you know what? We've got to $12 million by sheer aggressive will. We spend money, we generate leads, we close them. We're good at it. But we're not telling our story. We want to tell our story. We want people to actually like us. And you go in and you look at their company, and sure enough, they do a lot of great things. And so we just have to identify. It's, I talked about the faucets, but also it's, let's talk about their master craftsmen and how they screen them, and how they have to have 500 jobs before they can be sent out to your job. All these kinds of things. Proof. So that's the sweet spot. 5 to 20 million. Window siding, roofing, gutters, sunrooms, concrete guys, kitchens, bathrooms, regular bathrooms, quick turn bathrooms. Also, we do a tremendous amount of work with the home services companies, the HVAC companies.
Yeah.
I've got at least 5 clients that are over $50 million in HVAC, plumbing, electric, et cetera, and another 15 that are probably 5 to 40 million.
Yeah, it's your services, and you keep in this niche. This is what I love about it, because there's a lot of companies out there that do stuff like this for everybody, all industries, and it doesn't work, right? You can't organically know it. It's like going to school and learning Spanish, and then you and I going down to Mexico and us talking school Spanish. We might as well be talking English and have gringo on our forehead, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not going to work. You need that native tongue, and that's what you have. That's what separates you and from everything else that you're doing. Now, I got 2 more questions for you. One, this first one here, what would you say to somebody that's on the fence about going? Like, everything you say is great, Rich, but you know what? I think I can do it. I'm doing it. We're improving. Like, I'm on the fence about going. Like, what is your, like, just push over the edge? Like, get your ass here. Get out of your own way. What do you have to say to
The smart
that?
alecky answer is fine. Don't come, suffer for another year, and then come next year. The less smart alecky answer is you've got to be bought into this concept of identity. If you understand, that's why we spent so much time on this conversation today.
Yeah.
If you understand that concept and you have a little mustard grain size piece of faith that integrating that into your website, into your advertising, into your scripting, into your follow-up systems, into your sales presentations and your salespeople is actually going to move the needle, then I'll tell you this, Greg, and here's the answer I think you're really looking for. I've been doing this for 30 years, 20 years in this industry, and still there's literally 0 other people preaching this particular flavor of the gospel. Nobody. There's no other conference where you're going to learn this. It doesn't exist. I don't know why it doesn't exist. To me, it's super obvious. I thought by now it'd be overrun with 15 lookalike competitors, but I just continually am not. So if you want to learn this, this is the only place to do it. Now you can listen to the podcast. You can read my book. We've got a million resources out there, but this is where you're going to learn how to roll up the sleeves and actually do it.
So let's fast forward after the show. Now that you've got them there, they've been successful. At the end of this show, and I were to interview you and say, look, what does a successful show look like to you? What would be your answer?
I just cut a video to promote this conference, and the headline was, "Your marketing team is going to hate you when you return," because this is not a, "Hey, I'm going to go get one good idea" kind of a conference.
Good.
This is your entire brain is going to be exploded, and you're going to come home with so many ideas that prioritization is going to be your number one problem.
And you have a solution, because it's not just a show. Here's your little pamphlet. You wrote down a bunch of good things. Go back and have that paralyzation, right, of too many decisions to make. You are going to still continue to walk them through an entire year-long campaign, really, about follow-up. Make sure they do it. So you're going to be an added resource just off the purchase of this ticket. Is that right?
Yeah, from 2000 to 2005, I had a phase of my business where I created a business opportunity where I recruited, trained, and supported marketing consultants. Okay. And I trained 1,100 marketing consultants during that era to be a marketing consultant. 5 days of training, weekly follow-ups. Here's what I know. You're going to come out to this conference. Here's what the promise is not. You're going to go home and everything's going to be done, and you're just going to implement what you did when you rolled up your sleeves at the conference. That's ridiculous and it's unrealistic. Here's what is realistic. You're going to have the framework to do it, and then you're going to have the follow-up opportunity to run the things that you're creating based on that framework past me to get feedback, to fine-tune it and make it better. So you can absolutely have a framework and a follow-up system to get this done in your business.
I love it. We are at time. I can't wait to be there. Philadelphia, September 11th and 12th, right?
Yep.
So looking forward to it. We'll put links below so you guys can check everything out. Rich, thank you very much for the insight, the information, the the foundation that you provide, and of course, the highlight of the show to come in Philadelphia, Operation Lead Surge. Thanks again for being here. And as always, power up.